to oversee that, and I know that you're doing that this morning.
The word or term operational control has been used a lot since I've been in Congress, and no one has really been able to define to me what operational control truly is. So I'm going to ask the panel, all four of you, what is operational control of our border in your opinion? Now I'll start with Ms. Barrett. Let's go back toward the governor. Ms. Barrett.
When CBP used that measure a couple of years ago, there were a lot of different factors that went into calculating it. It was apprehensions, turnbacks, estimated flow coming across the border. It was pretty sophisticated in how they went about approaching that. Currently, they're really just looking at apprehensions, which we don't feel is a great measure. It's an indicator, but we don't think it's a great measure for assessing control of the border. So my response is I don't think CBP has a good definition of what operational control is today. They've been working on trying to come up with that definition. Now they're saying it may take until 2014 to come up with it. We think it's critical. We think CBP needs to be the ones to define it since they're managing the border, and I'm sure Congress will ask GAO to look at it once they do define it, but right now they just don't have a good measure for operational control.
Mr. Nelson.
I would measure it more along the terms of effectiveness. How effective are we being at achieving the mission? They have been effective at keeping terrorist attacks from happening in the United States. DHS has been. The effectiveness of the border, how you measure those with apprehensions or whatever metric you use, is never fully going to capture that. I think it's also difficult to capture how effective you are when you're still dealing and struggling with issues about immigration reform, which I know is an issue that the Congress is taking on this year. But again, how do you measure effectiveness when you don't know what the strategic guidance may be from Congress or from the President on these particular issues, because we're still waiting to hear that, and I think that'll be important going forward.
Right. Mr. Reese.
I think the discussion of, I first have to say, border security is not an issue that I specifically focus on at CRS, and I think it's actually a good analogy when I was discussing this idea of what is homeland security. And as we're talking, and the very people the very agency responsible for operational control are having a hard time defining it, and we're using words like terrorism and immigration and customs, and I think it comes back to this idea of we don't have this concept yet, or we have a concept, but it's according to who you speak to. And until we actually have the discussion like we're having now, we're going to continue to wonder, what do words mean? What does operational control of the border mean? I don't have an answer for you, Congressman.
Governor.
Well, you know, it's a term of art, and what in fact really does it mean? It's a government talking to itself about what it's trying to achieve. Operational control, I don't know if we have operational control or not. It's a incident of American sovereignty as to whether we have control over our borders or not. But at the end of the day, if we think that we're not bringing cocaine across the southern border, we're kidding ourselves. We know we are. And those routes and those methodologies can be used by potential terrorists if they decide to do a military operation against us. And that's why it's so important. At the end of the day, though, I want to come back to this last theme. If we're going to have operational control over our borders, it's going to be because the people of the United States are engaged in this issue and understand when they participate in drug activity or other kinds of activity that they're enabling a lack of operational control over our borders. At the end of the day, Homeland Security is the job of every citizen of the United States, not just the government.
Well, thank you for that. And before I turn over to the ranking member, I'll discuss a conversation he and I had just this week about ranchers in his district that are fearful to leave their children at home to go into town to buy a gallon of milk.